Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Top3Tech. I'm your host, Jerry Reese, and today we're going to bring you another AMD card and another XFX card. I have reviewed the XFX card similar to this, but this is the XFX Speedster Merc 310 AMD RX 7900 XTX. The last time I just reviewed the non-XT. This is the Black Edition as well, which is XFX's overclocked edition. And it's kind of weird why it's called the Black Edition when it's a silver GPU. But you guys saw my opinion on the looks of it last time. Let's see if this one has any changes to it. So I have unsealed the box, but I'm be doing this unboxing first time with you guys live. I haven't checked out the contents, but I did see the contents of the XT version. So I'm assuming it'll be the same, or it might have an extra special feature or not. But if this is your first time seeing this, you might be impressed. So let's see what's inside. So it comes in a black box. It's ready, interesting. Jeez. This pops up. So we have this card. Speedster series. For the latest driver, scan the QR code here for warranty info. Scan that there. Information in letters I cannot read. This is brand new in the 7000 series. It didn't come in the 6000 series. I was also impressed with, let's see what's in here. There's some screws for mounting it's a GPU holder pretty much. I was not expecting that the first time around. I was expecting it this time. But either way, if you haven't seen it, let's check it out. Here's the card, of course. Nice card. Here's that bracket holder. It'll go like this. I got this backwards. Oh, it might go like this. I don't remember. Either way, it'll hold your card in and support it. That way it's stable in your case. If you guys would like to see how to install that into your motherboard, let me know. But I have a GPU bracket, so I'm just going to be using that instead. But let's go ahead and get a close-up of this bad boy. This card measures 344 millimeters in length, has a triple fan design, has matte black around the fans, and it does have bland stickers, no XFX in the middle of them. The back has a steel rigid backplate with no designs on it and a heat vent to the right. We have the BIOS switch on the left, and when it's on the left side, it's on performance mode, Radeon painted on the card. We got the 24 pin sockets, and of course we have the XFX logo that does light up, but you can't turn it off or change the color, I don't believe. We have the silver outline along the matte black, and of course we got the long aluminum radiator across the card. Not only does it have the XFX cut out on the back right here, but it has two DisplayPort 2.1s, one DisplayPort 1.4, and one HDMI 2.1 slot. And here's your favorite part of the video. Well, on the last one at least. We're going to go ahead and compare this to the other GPUs real quick. I probably won't go as hard as I did last time, because as you can see, this one has these Super Smash Bros. Generic logos. This card is kind of bland, but the front isn't too bad. I still think this is the ugliest card of this next generation that I have seen so far, so shout outs to that. But people were kind of annoyed that I was harping on about it. But anyways, look, here's the Sapphire Pulse 6800 non-XT. This card is non-RGB as well. It's got these red lines in the front, says Sapphire Pulse. It's got the sapphire blades, pretty nice. We got this sapphire nitro here. The fans do light up, they glow, looks dope. It's the 6800 XT. It's got this two-tone color. Pretty distinguishable, right? Then we got this Intel. Well, it's the Acer Predator Bifrost Intel Arc A770 OC. This card is a little cheaper than the rest of the cards. Actually, all these cards are cheaper than the XTX. It has the Predator logo there, the Aeroblade 3D fan in the middle that lights up, and then this RGB fan here that lights up. That looks sleek to me. Looks beautiful, but not overdone as well, but what do I know? Then we got this EVGA for the Win 3 Ultra 3070 Ti. We've got these EVGA logo fans in the center. On the fans, it's got the logo as well. Sorry, look at that. Woo! It's got these little dots on it. This lights up. Like I said, these cards are all cheaper than this one, but yet this one looks kind of bland. It doesn't even have the XFX logos in the center, but whatever. I do like these little silver outlines. That does look nice. That's not the biggest issue for me. The biggest issue is this metal backplate. People said they like the minimalistic, sleek look. Fine, okay, but this Radeon Pulse, remember, non-RGB as well, has a BIOS switch, 16-pin socket, Sapphire painted on there, Radeon painted on there. Doesn't look too bad. Heat vent, looks nice, right? You could tell it's a Sapphire card. This Sapphire Nitro Plus, it's a silver GPU as well. Logo lights up, heat vent, Sapphire Nitro Plus, 16 socket, RGB right there, Sapphire lights up. Look at that, Radeon. It looks nice. I don't think it's too overdone. Some people might. The RGB does light up. This Predator card, a Predator logo, Predator words, Intel Arc A770, heat vent. You can tell it's the Predator, obviously. Some people don't like that. Intel Arc A770, the Predator logo and the words light up when it's turned on, 16 socket. I think that's one of the nicest looking cards there are here, but I do agree that's a little overdone, but it's not the worst for me. GeForce RTX, EVGA. Look at this. I could say this is minimalistic. It's only got one red line. It's got these words painted here. EVGA cut out there. Radiator, 16-pin, and then the EVGA RGB bar right there. This lets me know it's an EVGA card. I can tell by looking at it. I can tell that's an Acer Predator. I can tell this is a Nitro design. I can tell that's the Pulse design. When you look at this, can you tell that's an XFX card? I guess now you can, because this is how they're going to look like. But this just looks like a generic card you get from a pre-built computer, something like that. It does say Radeon there. The XFX lights up there. It is 24-pin socket, so it's nice that the XFX lights up here. And I just wanted maybe like a little XFX cutout. It doesn't even have to be RGB, but even if it is RGB, you could always turn it off if you don't like RGB. But you see how the EVGA has a cutout there? It could have the same thing right here, XFX, like the side logo, XFX. It could be cut out right here. The non-black editions have Merc written right here. So, I mean, I get it. This isn't a toy. People buy the GPU not for looks, but for performance. But guess what? You're spending so much money on this. People like a little aesthetics to it. But, oh well. If it drops down in price and it's cheaper than the other cards, it won't be as bad. But as is, I would like a little more design on it. Don't hate me for it. You guys are going to hate me for it. And if you really want to see me go ham on it, go check out the XT video. I go a little more crazy. On this one, I'm more chill. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Look how long this thing is compared to the other cards. Sheesh. And it's thicker too, so definitely make sure it fits in your case. Sorry guys, I almost forgot because of my rambling. Wow, look at that. I was able to fit it inside my case. Barely. Jeez. It's fine, guys. The fan is more pushed in. It's not gonna make it's not gonna make any it's not gonna hit the GPU. It's not gonna make any contact. Gosh, sorry guys. I was just worried about it fitting in there, so I'm a little flustered. And if you guys see this Hennessy bottle here, I don't drink it. It's just for looks. I do drink alcohol, and if that turns you off from my videos, I'm so sorry. But people were attacking me about that because I said this card was ugly last time. And let me know in the comments if you think that's a negative thing to do while being a tech tuber. So they said they don't want to take advice from a drunk, so let me go ahead and see how this looks like with the lights turned on. Everything's on. Let's go. Jeez. Looks not scraping, no noise. Very close call though. But that's how it looks like with the lights on. I do admit it does look a lot better with the environment of the lights radiating off the card. But to the people that say they like how the light bounces off the card, that's pretty much like having RGB on it anyways, because light bounces off from the inside. But sorry to drag on with that. I just got a lot of hate in the last one. It's okay if you like non-RGB, and it's okay if you like how this card looks. That's why they sell different cards. But in my opinion, if you spend a lot of money on it, I wish they give you options, more options, or at least make it look a little more individualistic. So let's go ahead and get to the benchmarks. And FYI, you can't turn off this logo, which I don't like, because I wish you had the option to turn it off if you don't want it on. But benchmarks. Before we get started with the benchmarks, let me go ahead and introduce the Top3Tech PC specs. We have an Asus X570 Tough Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. We have a Ryzen 7 5800X CPU. We have 32GB of Corsair Vengeance 3200MHz RAM. And of course, today we're going to be testing the XFX Speedster Merc 310 AMD RX 7900 XTX. It has 2615 MHz of boost clock, 2455 MHz of game clock, 1855 MHz of base clock, and of course it has 24GB of GDDR6 memory. It is on the RDNA 3 architecture, and they do recommend a PSU wattage of 850 or higher. I was pretty impressed by this card. I have seen the XTX before, but it still amazes me. When these first came out, we heard nothing but bad things about them. They were overpriced. The performance wasn't too great, but I think over time people started to realize that these cards aren't too bad, and I have been on board saying to give them a chance for a while. But the 4090 is still king, but this card is no slouch, especially for that $500 difference. And they are getting a little cheaper as well, so you may be able to get them bundled or like $100 lower than MSRP was. But these cards are very capable at 4K 120 hertz or 120 frames per second, depending on the game. But even intensive games like Halo and Call of Duty are able to do 4K 110 to 130, depending on the map. If it's a big map, the performance takes a little hit, but still, it's pretty impressive. Of course, at 2K, it does great from like 160 to 230 frames per second, but this card is not really meant for 2K. If you're buying this for 2K, I guess you're buying it with the 4K monitor in mind in the future, a 120 hertz one. But either way, I was still impressed. Modern Warfare 2, like I said, 120. Cyberpunk had 60, let's just say 60 frames per second at 4K, which is very impressive. Obviously not the 4090, but this game had trouble running on a lot of cards, so 60 frames 4K is great. And then at 1440p, it's at 120, which is probably what I would try to play it at because I like higher frames. But with all this frames, with all this power going through, you do get at 1440p from 320 watts to 360 watts being used on average, depending on the game. And then at 4K, you get from 360 to 390 watts on average, depending on the game. And you do get some spikes of, the most I got was 480 on Forza, and that was pretty insane. So I got a spike of 480 watts, and you do on Tomb Raider, I got a spike of 464. And so make sure you have a pretty, it does recommend an 850 watt PSU, which is what I was using, so you should be fine. I always recommend just getting a little bit more, but you'll be fine either way, especially since it's a 24 pin socket. I think that's why it spiked up pretty high. But you will use a lot of power with this card, so keep that in mind. But one of the great things about these cards is even though they're using a lot of power, you don't get a lot of heat in it. These are very cool cards. Like that 4090 with the liquid cooled one was cooler, but this one's still not too bad. It stays around 55 and under in a 72-degree room, which is pretty impressive. You gotta thanks that vapor chamber in there. So I think it's a pretty cool card, literally, and it's pretty powerful. So it's a pretty great card for a not too bad price, I guess. When it comes to ray tracing, it does an okay job. It usually does better than the 4070 Ti. Sometimes it does worse, especially with super sampling on. So it's pretty much on par with the 3090, which is last gen's GPU, and the 4080 and the 4090 do blow it out of the water when it comes to ray tracing. So it's not too bad. It's okay. It's definitely playable. But if you want the better performance in ray tracing, you definitely would want to go with the 4080 or a 4090. But for raw power, I would recommend the XTX. But still, Cyberpunk was still playable, like at 30 frames, 4K, 20-ish frames, you know, depending on the settings you use. But you can use FSR, but I kind of don't like turning super sampling on with ray tracing. I feel like that defeats the purpose. But other games where the ray tracing really wasn't built from the ground up, you know, it just has like the shadows and some reflections. Like Far Cry, it beat the 4090, but that game is kind of more geared towards AMD cards anyways. And like Tomb Raider, it got more than 100 frames at 4K, which wasn't too bad either. But those games don't utilize ray tracing from the ground up anyways. And in path tracing, I think it got like 4 frames at 4K. So that path tracing doesn't really count. You need DLSS 3 to run it anyways. But I guess if you want to compare those, there's that. But I'm not the biggest ray tracing fan. If you are, don't get this. Get a 4080 instead. To wrap things up, I'll talk about some of the pros and cons. I might have mentioned them earlier. I might not have, but I did like the AV1 encoder that comes with it. You're able to upload higher resolution videos at half the bandwidth, which is great for people either with lower internet speeds. They could go ahead and stream a lot smoother videos, or you just get better quality videos at half the bandwidth, which is always great. Great for your performance. And I did like that this card sometimes got spikes of 3 gigahertz or higher. On Valhalla, I got up to 3073 megahertz. On Firestrike, I hit 3037. Gears, I hit 3043. And on Modern Warfare, I hit 3019. So it was great to see those little spikes, even if it wasn't always the average. But it's just interesting to see. I did like that this card had dual BIOS. It's always great to have that option in case you're overclocking and something happens. You don't break your card, you can switch BIOS and try to fix it. No coil whine was another great thing about this card. Very quiet. If I turn up the fans up to like 75, it does get pretty loud, but you're not going to really need it too high because it has the vapor chamber in it, and it stays very cool. So those options are all great. Those are all great reasons why I like the card. Some of the reasons why I don't like this card in particular is the size. So this card is huge compared to that Gigabyte Gaming XTX I had. It barely fits in my case, like barely. It's touching the front radiator, as you guys saw earlier. The new driver that I installed was stuttering on my system. I asked other people if they were having issues with it. One person, I asked him, same card. He said it was running fine, so maybe it's just my PC. But I had to downgrade to the previous driver so it can run smooth. And even trying to stream with it, I ran into a problem. Ended up crashing. I had to re-download the new driver while streaming. So if you have that issue, stuttering issues with it, roll back to the previous driver and see if that helps. And then of course the price. They are going down in price. I think I saw it for $1,000, which is not too bad, but these are around $1,100, $1,000 to $1,100. Still not too bad either, but it is expensive. But for that 4K 120 frames compared to the 4090, it's not that bad. It did come in second in most games against the 4090, but on a lot of them not by too much, and it did beat it in some of the games, which is great for a card that's $500 cheaper. And of course, the ray tracing wasn't too good, but it's AMD. They're still learning. But I don't know if that's much of an excuse because Intel and their ARCs have pretty impressive performance with their ray tracing. And then obviously, if you really want ray tracing, then the NVIDIA 4080 would be the card for you instead of this. And of course, the draw power. Like I said, 4K, it was hitting 360 watts to 390 on average on most games. 2K, 320 to 360. And then it would get spikes that were pretty high. Like I said, the highest I saw was 480 watts. So some people care about power consumption. I don't care too much, but if you game a lot over the years, it starts to add up. But that's up to you if that matters. You could always undervolt it as well or set a power limit. But I review these things straight out of the box. Hopefully I helped you with your purchase, or I helped you get information on this card or any other cards that you had in mind. But my name's Jerry. I hope you liked this episode. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more. I'll catch you guys later. Peace. Thank you for watching another video from Top 3 Entertainment. I hope you hit like and subscribe. Also, I'm going to have a recommended playlist, a recommended video right here, so make sure to click that as well. I appreciate you guys tuning in, whether it be to the Top 3 Tech, Top 3 Gaming, or the Why Not Me podcast. You guys are dope. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And of course, let's grow this thing together. Peace. Peace. Peace.